Good morning, loved ones. It's about little afternoon, and I was about to write today's devotional, and I thought, wow, I haven't done a video in quite some time, so I thought I would just sit here with you guys and read today's devotional from our life book, and go ahead and make a little commentary afterwards. It's not going to be a deep study. I didn't have time to go back and to study the passage beforehand and to be able to point things out to you. But either way, let's get at it. All right. We are in the book of Mark, chapter 14, and right where it says Jesus foretells Peter's denial. That was actually yesterday's devotional, but I think it's important to read yesterday's and today's together in case if you didn't read it, and also because it gives you a context for some of the comments that are made by the high schoolers who write the notes on the side. So it reads as follows. Jesus foretells Peter's denial. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go up before you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Even though they all fall away, I will not." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night, before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he said emphatically, "If I must die with you, I will not deny you." And they all said the same. It's important to point out that they all said the same, because usually we point the finger at Peter, and usually when Peter speaks, he's speaking for the rest of the group. I don't know if he was their spokesman or he's just a more vocal one, but we always point out that Peter had mouth and foot disease. He always stuck his foot in his mouth when he said something. And I wouldn't say not that he didn't think it through, but it was never seemed to be the right thing to say at the right time. But one thing I want you to notice is that Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd." Notice who the I is in the passage. Jesus is not saying the I is the devil. Jesus is not saying the I is the Roman government or even the Jewish people that would hand him over to the Roman authorities. But the I is God himself. Jesus' own Father is the one ultimately in charge of everything. He said this would happen. He said this is how it would happen. And he is the one that initiated everything moving forward just as was planned. God is not the author of sin. God will not tempt anyone, and he himself cannot be tempted. So we need to be very careful how we hear what it is that I'm saying. But it says very clearly, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. Tayden writes a note on the side there. He said, those years of being with Jesus, and they're all going to leave him. I never planned to leave him. Tayden's a young believer, a senior in high school, and what he says out of a heart for Jesus, having become a believer recently, but nonetheless there's a lot of pride that goes into that. When we read the scriptures, we need to know and understand that anyone is capable of doing anything that these guys did. These guys were flesh and blood human beings just like us, but by the grace of God, their stories could have been our stories, either the good ones or the bad ones. So let's be very careful about saying what we would and would not do. We can't plan on what we would say. We can think about that, but ultimately when that time comes is when we have those decisions to make, and I believe God will give grace where he sees fit. JB makes a note at the bottom. He says, I don't turn my back on my friends. If I ever desire to follow Christ, I'm in it till the end. That is a fascinating statement. And I think there's so many people outside of the church and even inside of the church that they say, if that was me, I would have stuck it out to the end, or I wouldn't want to do that. And I think that's one of the things that really fuels the church, individuals in the church, is when they see what shouldn't be, when they see an injustice, when they see wrong teaching, when they see someone being treated in a wrong way, is that they step up. Because they said, look, if other people aren't going to be the ones to defend, if the other peoples aren't going to be the ones to correct, if the other peoples are not going to be the ones to correctly feed the flock, then this is how God raises up leaders in His church. This is how He brings forward those people who are going to be His hands, His feet, His mouth, His eyes, His ears in the world today. So let's go on and read today's part. Jesus prays in Gethsemane. And they went to a place called Gethsemane, and He said to His disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And He took with Him Peter and James and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. I'm going to stop there before I forget. I said this before in the written devotionals and when I'm teaching you guys in person. Jesus was a real flesh and blood human being. Do not ever, when you read the scriptures, go there and pretend this is something that we cannot relate to. He felt real pain in His body. He felt real anguish. And here, coming up to the night before He would be crucified, knowing this would happen, having warned His disciples on 3 different occasions that He would be handed over, that He would be crucified, and that He would rise again, here He is, night before. And if I can't sleep the night before going on just a family vacation, imagine trying to rest or trying to think through something of that caliber happening the next day. So I want you to remember that as we keep reading. And going a little further, He fell on the ground and prayed, if it were possible, that the hour might pass from Him. And He said, Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will. And He came and found them sleeping, and said to Peter, Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And again He went away and prayed, saying the same words, and again came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer. And He came to them a 3rd time and said to them, are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. There's so much here, so much packed into our passage here today. And I wish we were in person. I wish we had more time. But I don't want to drag this out any more than it should. Bella makes a comment on the side there. It says, I didn't know Jesus tried to get out of it. I don't know if Jesus was necessarily trying to get out of it as much as he was expressing what was going on in his heart at the time. When we come in prayer to God, we do not have to sugarcoat or put on the back burner what is heavy on our hearts, what we're worried about, what we need from Him. We need to make sure that we are letting those things out, that God would hear them, that even that we would share them with other brothers or sisters, so that they would be praying with us. Not so much that we would just be delivered from it, but that, as James said in his letter, he says, consider it all joy, my brothers, when you face trials of various kinds, knowing that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Right? This is something that we need to learn when we pray. It's not just about praying that things go away, but that God would move, that God would teach, that God would walk me by the hand through this trial, knowing that if He brought me to it, as I've heard them say, He will bring me through it. All right? But let's go on from there. Emmy makes a note there saying some guy, the same guy who said, I forgot to put on my glasses, the same guy who said that he would never leave Jesus is sleeping on the job. I mean, it's true, they were sleeping, they were tired. They got up early in the morning. This is already going into the night, and the Bible tells us that their eyes were heavy. But what I do want you to realize and to see there very clearly is that when Jesus tells them, "Why are you sleeping?" it is not self-centered. Even at that point, knowing that all that is going on, Jesus does not look at them and say, "Look at me," or worry about me. Don't you know what's going to happen to me? But He says ever so clearly, "Could you not watch at 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation." Even then, He was more concerned about them than He was about Himself. Jesus is an amazing individual, 100% God and 100% man. But don't let the fact that He is God diminish what He experienced in His body, in His mind, in His soul, as He walked this earth, just like one of us. Just like one of us. I don't know. I don't want to keep on talking about the passage. If you guys have any questions or comments or complaints, feel free to comment below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I'm working on tomorrow night's lesson. We are going to be skipping a couple of passages, and if you would like to read them, it is the one, the couple after this. All right, but we'll pick it up. What I want to do is I want to get through and to and through the crucifixion by Sunday, and we're there. We are right there. They're coming in. They're getting Jesus. If you can see the video behind me, Judas has just kissed Jesus, and they are about to take Him away, and He's going to start this series of trials. And I mean, my goodness, there's so much to say, but I trust that we will be around for some time, that this will come around again next year and the following year, and that you in your personal reading time would go back and look at this. There's so many questions that can be asked. There's so many comments that could be made. There's so many even complaints or concerns that can be voiced, but they have to come out, or else someone is not going to be able to take the time to sit with you and talk with you and share with you what they have learned over the years. Okay? So with that said, loved ones, thank you so much, and thank you for being patient and listening with me. I would love to take these videos and kind of make them, edit them a little bit more, and I thought of calling them 10 minutes together and having a little music in the background or whatever. But someone has to do that. I don't have the know-how or even the software to do that kind of stuff. But with that said, have a great day, loved ones, and God bless you real good.